go.
Welcome to another podcast of Adeel Pirzada podcast. Today we got another exciting podcast about construction, real estate, and the economy. Today I'm joined by my co-host Kevin Padillo. How are you doing?
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in. Glad to be back on the show.
Yeah, you were missing for last couple of episodes. Actually, some of them he was just sitting right there, but we were actually doing a little demo on the computer and all that stuff, so couldn't see Kevin's face or hear his voice. But yeah, we're glad you're here, Kevin.
Yeah, it was good. It was actually great to just be in the background to see and watch Adeel talk about real estate. I learned quite a bit on the different sizes of duplexes, how to access it, and how to calculate your costs and profit on deals. So it was great just to sit back and really observe what he's doing. So I'm taking notes, and as I learn, I'm gonna, maybe apply in the future.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Today we're just gonna discuss about construction, like we always do, but we're gonna talk about commercial construction. Actually, it would apply to any type of construction, which is construction planning, project planning. So when you're building something, you got a project yourself, and I would say it would be for any project, but it really applies to construction planning, project planning. Yeah,
Let's do it. Sure.
Yeah, so I think talking about a project or a construction, let's say a construction project, the things you want to look at, it would vary from a project to project, but there's 5 basic things that would help you in planning for your project, and then make sure that you have all these things. If you have them in advance, your project can run smooth, and you will know all the risks and all the issues before time. So whenever you got a construction project, a lot of people come up with that, and a lot of people actually dealing with that right now, whether you're building it yourself or you're building a project for hiring someone, a contractor, a subtrade, building something. It could be your basement, could be your deck, could be your house renovation, it could be something for your business, right? A commercial construction aspect to it. Your contractor should be doing that, and maybe you should be doing that on your end as well, just to make sure that whatever you're getting, whatever you're planning for, is actually going to meet the completion and timeline. So the 5 things, and I'll go in a little bit detail, but number 1 that you're going to need is actually have a proper plan. So the planning part of it is actually having a real plan, which could be drawings, which could be set of information or instructions, right? Which could be something drawn up or sketch up. And it could be also, if you got a real project, if you're really building something big like a commercial or a brand new house, then you got to have those real drawings, the real permits. So that plan is not enough. That's what the city needs, and that's what you need for the building codes to build and make sure what they are and how they are. But other than that, you also need a plan for yourself, that these are my drawings, these are my plans, and here are the things that I want them in there. And if you find them any different from what it shows in the drawing, because it happens all the time, what you may change things in the process as well, then you want to also have those written down, or in a shape of drawings, which will be the revised drawing. So we can go in detail, but I'm just trying to make it simpler, that even if you had a plan, so let's say you were building a restaurant and you have a plan, you don't see exactly everything that is in your plan, but it's in your wish list. You want to write down that wish list. So all the planning needs to happen on the planning stage. So that's the number 1 thing you're going to need. Number 2 is that, what is the cost related to this planning? So you need to know the cost of it. Now, with any project, maybe it's your garden project, maybe it's project of buying furniture. You still need all this stuff, all these 5 things. So you're going to need the cost. So if it's a house construction, you need to know the cost. So this is where you get contractors or general contractors to get their prices. And then if you watch one of our episodes that we just did recently, we talk about how to pick a contractor. So you need three things in that. So you can apply that area to this and then make sure you get the right people with the right cost.
You know what's cool is like I know Adeel is a developer, and I've been really learning about how different developers work, and I've found out that even there's a project manager on the developer side, and then there's a project manager on the GC side. So would it be fair to say that I did hear that even the project manager on the owner side would calculate costs as well
100%.
on his end, and then he'll see what the GCs is as well. Is that true,
100%.
or-
Yeah. So all big projects get treated like that. Some of the projects that a lot of our projects that we deal with, there's always that middleman, right? The consultant or the designer or the project manager for the owner, that hired company. So it always makes sense. You basically have three project managers involved always in a project. So there's three ends to it, and then there's three people you would call.
It also depends on the size of the project.
Size
as
of the
well.
project.
Like a small one probably wouldn't, but depends on the bigger ones.
I would say anything commercial, have your project manager separated. I mean, it depends, right? If you're a smaller project, then fine, even a commercial. But like this is how it would typically go, and that's from talking from the size of a tower to building maybe even a small franchises that some of them that we build, right? When it comes to construction, you have three types of project manager, or three types of people that are kind of handling your project. So, and there's three relationships. So you have the owner, who's the developer.
Right.
Then you have the designer, who is putting all the plans together, and then you have the builder, right? The GC or the contractor. Now they all have their own project manager. So the owner has a project manager that looks at the stuff for the consultant and the GC. Now the GC has a project manager that who communicates with the GC and the owner as well, right? So they all have project managers, and in a perfect world, they're all communicating with each other, getting the project done. Where mostly all the instructions are coming from the owner end, going to the consultant, and then some of them from consultant is gone to the other sub-consultants, or has even gone to the GC, and then the owner would have a direct relation and direct instructions for the GC as well, right? So that's what happened on a bigger level project, on commercial projects. When you're doing smaller projects, you may have your own project manager, and then you hire a consultant. He's your designer, and then you have a GC, and then GC should have a project manager. You'll be in trouble if the GC is not a project manager. Then I don't know how you can rely on a lot of stuff from them. If they don't have, because somebody needs to manage the project. So at the very least, you need a project manager from your general contractor, and you can utilize that person to be your project manager in a way for your project. And then that project manager also will help you in your transaction with your consultant and do maybe some of those roles depending on your contract and depending on work type.
And very important for everyone to be communicating with each other.
Yeah.
Just so you're on the same page.
Yeah, that's why you need the planning stage is the most important. A lot of people skip the planning stage and they would just want to get to the construction of it or the completion of it. But most mistakes are happened in the planning stage. And if they're taken care of right there, then you will have a lot less issues going into the project. If you're not taking care and leaving everything for the last minute, and we'll see when we get started, then you're going to have a lot of issues. So the planning is the most important. It's not even just getting your permits. A lot of times we see, and I can speak based on my experience, people will have poor planning. They'll have the plans and they're not even accurate. They're not even correct. The information is not correct on it, and it's not 100%. So that's why we like working with a lot of franchises, because they're very organized. They know what they're doing because they're doing the 100th time. So they should be. And they would have every single thing. You would know
super organized.
A door handle and a color and exact spec of it and where you get it from and how you get it. Like every single thing, every information is there. So it creates a lot less issues. That's why they're able to move a lot faster. Some of these places need, to be turned around in a month and a half. And it's all possible. When the planning is there, everything is possible. So yeah, so number one is planning. Number two is your cost estimate. So you want to know what the cost is. Number three is your scheduling. It's very important. You don't want to miss that because it's not only about the cost. If I can do something half the cost, but it's going to take me triple the time, maybe it's not really worth for you. So a lot of people skip on the schedule and not thinking about it, even on your end as an owner, that how long it should take your project, how long is it going to take, and also when your discussion between the consultants and the GCs, that how long is it going to take to finish. And if you're running behind, it doesn't matter. Maybe you find someone who's doing 1/3 of the cost, but it's taking them 3 years to do it. Guess what? Your opportunity is gone, right? Of doing your business or doing whatever you're doing, even if it's your home renovation. So it's very important that it's all within the timelines that you're looking for, and you should have, proper timelines. You shouldn't have something too long, too short. It should be within what is possible.
Like
And
choosing a realistic timeline as
yeah,
well.
yeah, exactly. So you have a realistic timeline for yourself. Don't make it short, because if you try to squeeze something in very little time, and again, your planning part is not properly done, especially if you're not doing for the 100th time, you don't know all your issues, then you're cutting yourself too short. And that's going to do is going to create that extra pressure on you, and you're going to take triple the time because of that, because you'll make more mistakes. So, but if you have it good enough time, you'll give yourself a lot of room for that planning to happen, then you can maybe finish before the timeline. So that's what you want to target, that you want to be able to have enough time, maybe where you can finish prior to when it's due, right? So it's very important, very, very important that you look at the schedule side of the things and analyze it, how the schedule is going to work out.
For sure. One thing I do want to add with scheduling as well, I've been really listening to some podcasts on project management. The things that they look at is pull planning. And one thing they do look at is they get together before the project starts and they start discussing with everyone and listing out potential constraints.
Yeah.
Where will there be a lag? Is there going to be a lag during permitting? Is there going to be a lag during lead time when the equipment comes in? By listing all of these potential time constraints, these can help you plan ahead and remove any issues in advance.
Yeah. Yeah, like those 5 things, right? The top one is the planning. And we'll share that with you. We'll also put it in the description just so you know it for yourself. Maybe you can put it in a spreadsheet and just make it simple. It's the planning. So when you're planning, you got to plan for the all, right? But talking about construction project, the biggest part of your whole project is the construction itself. So that's why cost is very important. And then with construction, there is a schedule attached to it, right? That's very important. Just the construction schedule. And remember that that's not your only schedule. It's not like the day you start construction and the day you end, that's the only time you're consuming on this project. There's a time prior to construction, and there's a time after the construction. And we're going to talk about that. That is also need to be considered in your project planning. Your whole time is not, the 60 days or 90 days. The whole time is probably 120 days. And there is some time prior and there is some time after that's allocated towards the project, right? So that schedule, you want to have it good and handy. And planning, so the pull planning is the one way looking at it. And you want to do it at the early stages. What are the issues, And a lot of people, which is our 4th one on the list, is forget about the issue, is the payment. Money is the biggest issue. It's like you start a project and you don't have the money for it, or you start it and then it wasn't the cost. So that's why that list is very important, that you have the planning, you have the cost, you have the schedule, so your payment is organized, right? If you give yourself enough time, then you would know, okay, I need this much payment and this much, because of the cost, right? I need this much payment. And these are my terms, based on, you may have a schedule, you want to get it done quick, but you don't even have the money for it. It wouldn't even happen, right? So what's the point of planning all that? So the money is the most important part, and you want to make sure you have money available for your project for the stages that is required. If it's your lender, if it's a financial institution, you want to give them a schedule, right? It's like, hey, this is what I'm looking at. This is my schedule. These are the terms. These are the timelines or dates I'm looking at when I'm going to need a payment. Are we okay with that? And you need to understand if they have any issues, if they have any special terms, maybe they want you to pay a portion of it every time. So you want to make sure that you have that portion available in your bank account before you start anything. Because the worst thing you could do to a project is start it and not finish it. And the worst thing is not finish it because of payment. And because that's because of you. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that with your home. A lot of people I see, and especially being in real estate, I see a project started 4 years ago, a husband turning a basement and then it's halfway done. It's because of that. Well, it's also because of money. It's like, well, I will do it and I'll save money. Okay, that's great, honey. But what about if you're not able to do it? Then what? Because they didn't plan that. If they had planned, okay, you know what? I'm free this summer. I'll start it. Yeah. But if I couldn't do it because of any reason, I get lazy and I get hurt, or I can't do it because I'm not the trade guy, or I just thought about it, here's the plan B. We'll hire someone and here's the money in the bank account to get that work done. And that's the part where they miss. So you will have uncompleted, unfinished construction for a very long time.
I have a great question for you, Adeel, because this can really tie in. It has me thinking a lot about real estate development and the area of where we're going as a company. Now, I've read on the news that there's a lot of different failures in developers that fail and they go bankrupt. Mm-hmm. What issues have you seen with them, and what would you do differently to prevent being bankrupt as a developer?
There's a lot of issues. I mean, I couldn't speak of one. It just could be the wrong project. It could be the wrong dynamics. It could be the wrong location. Planning is not done, right? And other factors, like a lot of people went under because when COVID happened, a lot of people actually lost a lot of money when COVID happened, and they lost money in real estate and that's what I thought too when COVID happened, said, oh, everything is going to go down, crashing. So a lot of people, they started selling and they got panic. And then because of that panic, because of that unknown, they didn't know, they started selling things on a loss. They started getting rid of stuff, right? And then real estate actually turned up. Like it just went the other way. And it cost them a lot of money, whether they couldn't get the lending at that time, whether they couldn't see the future at that time. And then, so it could be anything. You want to avoid the risk. There are a lot of risk involved as a developer, as an owner, when you want to do something. It's not going to come easy. It's not like, hey, this is 100% how it will go. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of risk involved. And there's a lot of things that are not in your control, like COVID, like weather, like anything, natural disasters. But what is in your control is what we're talking about, that you can take care of these things. You can look at the costs. You can look at the schedules. You can look at the payment terms. You can look at your bank account, have a communication with your lenders, have open communications with designer. All those things are not because of weather, are not because of some natural issues. All those are in your control. What is not in control is big things like that. And if that happens, I mean, you can't really do much about it, but do your part to the best, right? Thousands of reasons. Number one reason, I say, if it happens somewhere, it's because the planning was poor, and that should be well. And you should have the right team if it requires that team to take care of it. Right? So that's very important. Okay, number 5, and the last one, is the closing of the project. So when you're starting a project, you need to think about the finishing already. Like when you're in the planning stage, part of your planning should be what happens when I finish this project, right? Maybe there's special permits, special requirements. Whatever you require after the project, you already need to start thinking about that as well, because there's no point finishing a project and not able to do its purpose if what's the point of putting all the effort and rushing it and making it happen when you don't have the very last end. So think everything now that is required at the end. And it's not the first thing to think about, but it's to be thought about in the first stage for sure. When you're planning stage, you need to think about, so let's say it's your franchise. So maybe there is a training that needs to happen. You need to think about that. There's a health inspection that needs to happen. You need to think about that. There's other parties that are coming in your project and finishing some of the stuff. You need to think about that now. You need to think about after, like when you open it up. Let's say it's your business, your office place. Okay, once I'm done, what am I going to need? What kind of other expenses I'm going to have once I open the door? You need to think about all those things, because a lot of people will come to the finish stage and they're like, I don't have to carry forward now to operate it. And, all that effort, all the headache goes to a waste when that happens.
Interesting. There are actually a couple projects I've seen that they once after construction opens or is done, the business is closed. After this is expensive, I'm now broke. So now businesses are failing because of they spent so much money on construction, rent, all this. By the time it was time to open, it was already time to die.
Yeah.
So it was terrible for them and sad to see. But with good planning, just like Adeel says, can prevent you and your business from failure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's the key. With that, especially in your business, you got to be looking, at the closing part of it. Yeah. The fifth one, you got to look at it very closely. Like, do I have all the right tools, right? I've seen people wanting to open business. I'll give you one example how a horrible closing is. You have a project that you want to get done and you're pushing all this time to get it done, which is great, and you get it done. But guess what? And you get, let's say, everything in there because your contractor is pushing on you and they need some part of it. But guess what? They're not needed. They don't need a POS. They don't need your furniture, let's say, put in. Now you have a finished project. You may even have the product in there and all your equipment. And you can't really operate because you don't have a furniture. But guess what? You open the doors anyway, right? Because you got to open and it's time to pay the rent. And as you've been waiting for too long and your construction is completed, so you open the doors. And then you have customers start coming in and they look at it and they see no furniture. They see unfinished stuff. They see a big hole that's supposed to be a fridge, but you never got that fridge in there because whatever changed on your end because you didn't think about the closing. Now you don't look like that you are in control of your place. You look like you're putting pieces together, and people are not interested in that. There's too many options for people.
Damages the brand.
Yeah, sure. So it damages your brand from day one, right? So do not even open the door. And that's what I like about a lot of organized business work that way. If they're not done, they're not done, and there's costing them. But they'll make sure it doesn't happen again, right? Yeah. So this is why project planning is so crucial, because it could damage you other ways. So you want to be very careful, just not looking at one thing, but at a whole thing as a whole project.
One thing I want to add before we wrap up is part of project closing is around the project close is a good time to start promoting and marketing your grand opening. You're going to be opening, let's say you're on schedule for 2 weeks, you're going to open, you have some health inspectors coming in, you're doing a final cleaning, you're doing some last minute finishes. This is a good time to start having a great grand opening with a marketing strategy that brings your new customers in and gets them hooked on your brand right when you open. Because this is going to be a key time. It's going to be super exciting. This is now a time to create a strong marketing plan to hook your customers in and to make them loyal clients.
I've seen a lot of smart clients that we have built for. Yeah. And I see actually their marketing campaign pretty much starts when we start construction. When we're rough in stage, they basically start marketing.
Building hype.
Yeah, and then they're also like marketing us, right? Like they're marketing what we're building.
Yeah.
So that people know, okay, it's on the way. Something's happening. And then they're also marketing their products and other things. So it's a good time to start early. Like you don't need to wait till the end. You need to start early, but not too early because this is also bad. So right time, somewhere in the middle of the project, I would say, nothing later than that. You need to start marketing, start looking at all the closing stuff that you're going to need. So it's very important for you to keep going that way. We're here to help. And if you need anything, you can reach out to us. You can comment on this video. You can reach us out at info@pircongroup.com. And also, you can visit us at www.pircongroup.com. But I think that's it for now. I hope that was helpful for you guys for planning your project, whether it's some residential stuff or commercial. But if we could be any help, let us know, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.